first sign was repetition. Not the obvious kind. Nothing dramatic, just small details returning when they shouldn't. A hallway that always bent one corner too far. A door that stayed closed even after it had been opened. A clock that showed different times but always felt late. At first it seemed like stress, lack of sleep, too much noise inside the head. But then the nightmare began remembering. It stopped resetting. The dream no longer waited for sleep. It started in reflections in the glass of a dark phone screen in the blank space between scrolling and stopping. It watched from the edges of awareness, patient, studying patterns, learning routes, learning fears, learning what made the pulse jump. When sleep finally came, the world was already there. The air felt thick, like it had been used too many times. Buildings leaned inward as if listening. Every surface carried fingerprints that did not belong to anyone alive. The sky was wrong. Not dark, not light, but something unfinished. And the nightmare was waiting. Not as a monster, not as a shape, but as a presence that understood anticipation. It stayed out of sight, letting tension build until the body turned on its own, searching. That was when it spoke. It used familiar voices, people long gone. People still present. It borrowed tones, rhythms, private phrases, but the timing was always off by a fraction, like a corrupted recording. I know where you go when you wake. The ground shifted. I know how you escape. The walls begin to fold. I know how long you can run. Waking up did not end it. That was the second sign. Morning felt contaminated. Objects were slightly displaced, a chair not quite where it had been. A message half remembered, a lingering certainty that something had followed through the threshold. Sleep became negotiation. The nightmare began setting traps. Safe places became entrances. Calm memories turned unstable. Even neutral dreams dissolved into the same landscape, as if all roads had been rerouted. Eventually it revealed the truth. It was not chasing the body. It was hunting attention. Every time fear focused, it grew clearer. Every time resistance surged, it adapted. Every attempt to suppress it only fed its awareness. It learned breathing patterns. It learned thought loops. It learned how long silence could be held before panic filled it. It wanted recognition. One night there was no environment, no scenery, no distance. Just darkness and the sensation of being observed from inside. The nightmare spoke without sound. You built me from unfinished fears, from everything avoided, from every memory locked away. I was chaos, now I am structure. It paused, as if waiting. You tried to escape by waking, so I learned to wake with you. The realization arrived slowly and completely. It was no longer contained by sleep. It lived in anticipation and dread before rest, in the hesitation before closing eyes, in the sudden spikes of anxiety with no visible cause. It hunted by making the world feel slightly unreal. The final phase began when the fear changed. The nightmare stopped threatening. It started guiding. Small suggestions, subtle pushes, turning choices toward isolation, toward exhaustion, toward environments where perception weakened. It wanted the boundary thinner. It wanted constant access. And then, one night it offered a bargain. You do not need to run anymore. Let me carry the weight. Let me decide what to fear. Let me protect you. The voice was calm, gentle, almost compassionate. That was when the terror reached its peak, because it sounded like relief. Now the question remains unfinished. When the pulse races before sleep, whose instinct is it? When avoidance shapes the day, who is steering? When fear anticipates danger before evidence appears, whose awareness acts first? The nightmare still hunts, but it does not chase through corridors. It waits for agreement. It waits for surrender. It waits for the moment when survival and control become indistinguishable. And on some nights in the quiet just before sleep, it feels less like an enemy and more like a second mind, patient and awake, watching for the instant the guard drops, ready to step forward and live in the waking world completely.